Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is part 30 of What If Naruto Was the Red X. If you guys enjoyed this what if, and want to see part 31 of it, comment down below and let me know. And go ahead and check out other what ifs in the channel. Before we start, please do support for more awesome content. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a like, and also share this video with your friends. So let's start this video. Jump City. It was a bright and sunny day in the city. After a few weeks of work, with help from the Teen Titans of course, the city was fully repaired, and life had returned, mostly, to normal. Recently, Raven had been spending more time with her boyfriend, too much in Nightwing's opinion, though she chose to ignore his attitude. Jinx had decided to keep quiet about Raven's heritage for whatever reason she had. Though it seemed the Kid Wicked was just as silent as she was in that respect. At the moment, Naruto is slowly waking up from a blissful slumber, eyes bleary as he stretched his arms out. Blinking as he noticed a warm body next to him, Naruto looked to his side and smiled softly. The sight that greeted him was that of Raven lying on her stomach, eyes closed and an utterly peaceful look across her face. And she's really been pushing those rings of hers. Naruto then thought to himself when he noticed the gold bands around her middle fingers. Looking towards her back, Naruto felt his eyes drawn to the tattoo on her lower back. It was rather simple, it being a simple raven flying down her lower back with its wings spread out. Recently, when he decided to ask her when, where, and why she got that, she'd answered him as such. Terra and me went into town and I decided to try a different way to express myself. Shaking his head, the blonde looked to his clock and grimaced when he saw how late it actually was. I don't care how much slack the kid gives Card-chan, being out all night, and then till noon the next morning won't go over well with him. Naruto thought to himself with a visible grimace, then reached over to Raven. Card-chan, he said while shaking her shoulders slightly, the girl merely moving further into his pillows and slightly covering her ears. Boy, when she doesn't want to wake up she really doesn't want to wake up. The blonde thought to himself, then rubbed his chin and smirked as he moved down and slowly lifted Raven's head before kissing her on the lips. This had the desired effect of Raven blinking her eyes open before leaning into the kiss. Soon finishing the kiss and breaking apart, Raven stretched out her body while trying to rouse her mind from slumber. I think I like being woken up that way, Raven noted absently before turning from Naruto for modesty's sake, and grabbed her leotard. I'd say everyone does, Naruto noted, and Raven shrugged her shoulders while looking around for her armor and boots. She still wore the clothes her Amada clones had placed on her. She didn't really say why, save that if they liked them, then wouldn't that mean she did? Either way, even with her costume's upgrade, Raven had still decided to cut her hair back to chin length, saying it was too much of a hassle to take care of when it was long. I take it I woke up late, Raven suddenly noted while calling over her boots and pulled them on, Naruto grimacing visibly behind her. It's 20 after 12. Naruto admitted and Raven grimaced visibly. I'm going to have hell from Nightwing about that, she grumbled while rubbing her temples, and Naruto shrugged his shoulders. Could be worse, Card-chan, Naruto reminded the violet-haired girl, and Raven shrugged her shoulders. I guess, though I'd prefer it if Night were to leave me alone, Raven admitted then stated, and her blonde boyfriend shook his head while she pulled on her cloak over her shoulders. So, do you have anything planned for the day? She asked and he frowned in thought for a moment before waving her off. Nah, I think I'll just train Donnie-san today, Naruto said while waving her concern off. Getting up, he then walked over to his closet to get out his normal civvies, while Raven finished getting dressed by pulling her cloak on. I'll see you tonight, she asked and Naruto stopped to think about it for a moment before smiling towards her. Yeah. Unless the guys and I decide to do something later today, that is, Naruto stated, and Raven nodded her head, then swung her cloak and pulled herself into the shadows. Sighing once his girlfriend had left, Naruto leaned his head forward and into his closet's doorway. Soon leaving his closet with his desired outfit, Naruto placed them onto his bed before pulling on his clothes. Finishing with his shirt, the blonde then looked to a mirror and blinked as he noticed how long his spiky locks were getting, now reaching to the tops of his shoulders. Whoa, I'm starting to look like that Zero guy that Giz likes in those games of his. How long has it been since I last got my hair cut anyways? The blonde thought then wondered to himself before shrugging his shoulders and sat up, then walked over to a com link on his wall. Pressing a button on the device, Naruto then frowned in thought before hitting one for Gizmo's workshop. Hey, Giz, is my new suit done yet? Naruto asked and waited for a few moments until he heard Gizmo. Huh? Oh yeah, it's ready, just get down here, I've got some things to explain about the new one, Gizmo said before cutting the link, and Naruto looked at his hair for a moment before walking out of the door and down the halls. Soon coming to Gizmo's workshop, he saw the new X suit lying on a table, though it was visibly thicker than the last few, appearing almost like rubber or something. How much armor did you use on this thing? Naruto asked seriously, and Gizmo snorted for a moment while not turning to face the blonde teen. Not half as much as I wanted, it would have been too heavy, so I had to lighten it. It's durable enough right now to stop any low caliber projectile weapons even at close range, but higher caliber will still be a bitch. Gizmo admitted while motioning Naruto over to him, and the blonde walked over to a chair and sat down, the back of the seat in front of him, as he crossed his arms over top it. So? Naruto questioned, and Gizmo held up a hand while turning around to face him, and then blinked. You're starting to look like Zero. He suddenly shouted while pointing at the former ninja, only one thought crossing his mind. Blonde hair, wields a sword, calm, cool, and collected, and extremely high analytical and combat skills. Holy shit, we practically got Zero incarnate on our team. He thought to himself while gaping, and Naruto gave him a flat-looking response before rubbing his face. What's sad is, I said more or less the same thing when I saw how long my hair is getting. Naruto admitted tiredly before exhaling and gave Giz another look. Alright Giz, I know I need a haircut, but could you please tell me what the new X-suit's functions are before I fry it in myself in combat? Naruto asked, and Gizmo blinked, still pointing at the blonde before lowering his arm and shook his head. Oh yeah, sorry about that. But you know how I get with Mega Man games. Gizmo reminded the blonde, and Naruto nodded his head, well aware that the tiny terror was a rather large fan of the series, Donnie being more into the Devil May Cry series for some reason or another. Man, what is with them and video games? The teen had to wonder, considering their lives were probably more interesting than playing at least half of those video games. That's great and all Giz, but could you start with the suit? Naruto pleaded while rubbing his face, and Gizmo merely nodded his head while looking over to the X-suit. First of all, I did a major overhaul on all sub and main combat systems. I rigged the 2 thermal blasters into the gauntlets like before, but added in a new version of the old X-blade attachment as well. I had to take out the static knuckle attachment they had, and place the gauntlets lower on your wrists for this as a trade-off. Gizmo explained, and Naruto raised a brow while the tiny terror pulled off one of the gauntlets, and then tossed it to him. Catching it with one hand, Naruto took a moment to notice it was no less nondescript than the original variations that Gizmo had come up with. They were simple like the last gauntlets, being black forearm protectors with 4 crisscrossing straps along the undersides. Added, however, was that they slightly curved over his wrists and the backs of his hands like a cricket gauntlet. And upon feeling something at the wrist and channeling chakra into it, Naruto held the guard out as a large red blade popped out of it, from where the back of his wrist would be, its longest arm pointing towards where the front of the gauntlets were tipped. The other 3 coming out of the back and sides to form large cross. Well? Gizmo questioned expectantly while Naruto noticed 2 more, admittedly shorter, blades coming from the sides and back of the gauntlets. So you put an extra few blades in? Well, at least you took those scallops off the sides of them. I was starting to feel like a big Batman ripoff for a while. Naruto mumbled, then said to himself while putting the guard on and swung the blade, noting it was very light in weight. Yeah, those scallops weren't one of my better ideas anyways. These babies are made of a highly durable armor, but they are still light enough to carry as well as being razor sharp. Also, you have your thermal blasters in the wrists of the gauntlets. Gizmo then explained, and Naruto frowned before twisting his wrists slightly, the said weapon unfolding as the blade slid back into place with a noise. Not bad Giz, I'll probably add a seal onto the blades, so I can channel my wind chakra through them. Naruto said while placing the gauntlet back onto the X-suit, and Gizmo rolled his eyes. Yeah, well if you just show me how to make those I'd have already done it for you, pit sniffer. The tiny terror reminded, and Naruto gave him a look in response, and then looked to the black armor added to the legs of the suit. And what's this for exactly? Naruto asked while tapping the greaves, which had a redesign as well, though they were still all black. These looked lighter than the last few he'd worn, though that was easy, since they looked like they would only covered his ankles, calves, and the sides of his shins while leaving the front visible, though had numerous straps between the sides, and what looked like the stabilizer bracer system from the last pair. Those are mostly for light protection more than anything else. As you can see, they only really cover the outer portion of your legs. I also removed the electrical function when I learned you can create it on your own, so I decided to go more for speed with this new design. Though I did keep the old stabilizer systems just in case. Gizmo explained, then admitted, and Naruto shrugged his shoulders while Gizmo picked up the helmet. It was like the last few, a black helm with the typical skull motif with fangs, though the skull seemed more grey this time, and the eyes were on the inside of the skull, causing them to look shadowed. I take it you modified the vision settings again? Naruto said blandly while placing a fist against his cheek, and Gizmo gave him an annoyed look. Actually, the helmet got the biggest overhaul. It's got a smaller built-in rebreather at the mouth that also functions as a gas mask, scope, infrared and ultraviolet vision settings. The vocal synthesizer is built into the gas mask. The lenses still show you hot only now. I can send you map data in real time, and it's got a sonar function to locate anyone around you. Gizmo explained, and Naruto whistled, not for the first time, wishing he knew half of what Gizmo was talking about. Next is the belt. Gizmo said while pulling that off, and Naruto saw the same old ash-gray square-shaped plates were formed together, though where his hips would be the 2 plates were white, and shaped more like rounded-off diamonds with a removable upper section. The buckle for the belt was circular with a black field in the center, a red X placed over the field, and last a rappelling harness had been added to it as per usual. Okay, what's with those 2 plates? Naruto asked, and Gizmo actually grinned and pulled something out of the portions, revealing a strange device. What does it do? Naruto asked, and Gizmo grumbled under his breath before holding the device up and split it apart. It revealed something similar to a micro-energy core, causing Naruto to raise a brow. These, my friend, are 2 miniature power cells. Unlike your old suit, which you fried, I decided to modify this one to absorb your chakra when you're producing too much for it to handle. It will keep it on the edge of overheating, but you won't have to worry about your suit frying. These will also directly tie into your thermal blasters, and should increase their output by double if not triple the normal amount. You just have to press down on them for that function to start. Gizmo explained before putting the cell back into the belt, and Naruto raised a brow. So they'll let me use Sage Mode without fusing the suit to my skin? Naruto questioned, and Gizmo nodded his head with a slight frown. Cool. That could be useful. Say, does it still have all those extra energy cores like the last one? Naruto said, then asked, and Gizmo snorted before holding up the helmet and pointed to the back portion of the helm and pulled off the set device. And the rest of the suit? Naruto then asked, and saw Gizmo grin widely while waving his arms to the suit. Like I was saying, I upped the armor on this baby, while still keeping it light in weight. It still protects against most anything you might encounter. Rain, sleet, snow, fire, lightning, even sand, none of it will affect the suit negatively. Like before, it masks your body heat, but sonar will still track you, even with your stealth mode. I added in a masking feature that will decrease the sounds of your footfalls as well as any breathing, so you'll be totally silent. Gizmo explained, and Naruto slowly nodded his head before looking at the suit. It, like the last few, was a black suit. Unlike the last few variations, the X on the chest curved down under the arms, and up into another X on the back. White spinal plates were along the back in a similar way as well. Ash gray metal lined the bottom of the boots with a skull and X on the soles. White plates were on the backs of the hands, with white segmented armor forming claws over the fingers. Red X were placed on the palms, and the hands' forearms of the suit were the usual ash gray with black fingers. His normal black sheath and harness had been added to the shoulders and covered them while curving around to the back, a portion of armor dropping down towards the biceps. All in all, it looked very similar to his inner demon form from a couple weeks back, though it was admittedly altered enough to where it could probably just be misconstrued as a mere coincidence. Not bad, Giz. But I think it's time I gave this baby its first test run and got back to training Donnie. Naruto mused aloud, and Gizmo grinned widely before nodding his head as he turned back to whatever it was he was doing. Shaking his head, Naruto picked up the pieces of the new suit and carried them back to his room. Quickly changing into the suit, Naruto left the helmet off while looking at the completed suit with a slight critical look. I feel like I'm missing something, he thought before snapping his fingers and walked over to his closet. Digging around, he brought out his black trench coat from the whole plant invasion thing and pulled it on, then sheathed 2 ninjutsu onto his back before looking at his reflection with a smirk. Much better, Naruto said to himself before grabbing his helmet and made his way out of his room. Walking to the ops center, Naruto looked around before spotting Donnie playing a game. Shaking his head, the blonde teen walked over and tapped her on the shoulder silently. Donnie merely brushed his hand off while continuing to play her game. I'm busy, she mumbled aloud, and Naruto pinched the bridge of his nose while looking around the room. He saw Mammoth raiding the fridge, Jinx was sitting at the table with a thoughtful look, Billy and Seymour were on the sofa, seemingly awaiting their turn on the game station, and Naruto figured Private and Kid were off in the base somewhere. Only idly figuring Blackfire was sunbathing, and Whale was well-being Whale somewhere. The blonde turned back to his current student. Frowning slightly, Naruto looked down at the ghost girl and snatched her controller from her hands. Hey, she called out while turning to the older teen, and stopped upon seeing him. Ah, hi sensei, she offered with a slightly nervous grin, and Naruto gave her a look for a moment. Donnie, stop playing that silly game, you've got training today, Naruto stated, and Donnie patted before nodding her head as Naruto tossed the control to Seymour and Billy, thus allowing them to fight over it as he and Donnie walked out of the room. Making their way down the halls of the HQ, they eventually came to the Holo room, and Naruto waited for Donnie to enter before following her. So, what are we training in today? Donnie asked while floating into the air, and Naruto rubbed his chin with a thoughtful look. Ghosts have the ability to shapeshift, right? Naruto asked, and Donnie slowly nodded her head while looking at him. Then today we'll see if my Kagehenge no Jutsu is similar to ghostly shapeshifting, he finally said, and Donnie frowned towards the blonde as he put down his helmet. Computer, activate program CR4. Naruto then stated, and the layout then shifted until it took the form of the arena from the Chunin exams, though there were no people in the stands. Why did you pick an arena? Donnie asked the blonde curiously, and Naruto crossed his arms with a slight smirk. Because this gives us lots of room, he replied, and then cleared his throat before exhaling. Now then, the way I transform is different to what other shinobi of my land can do, being that I physically change my shape, Naruto explained, and Donnie slowly nodded her head, not really interested in what other shinobi did. With my variation, I actually focus my chakra and spread it around my body. As I do this, I also usually picture the form I want in my mind before releasing the chakra and allowing myself to take on the new form. Naruto further explained, and Donnie tilted her head before sighing. So basically you want me to try and turn into someone? Donnie asked, and Naruto nodded his head, causing the girl to pout and sigh. You know, when I imagined being trained by a ninja, I thought I might actually be learning about ninjutsu. You know, the art of invisibility and all that jazz. Donnie noted, and Naruto raised a brow for a moment while looking at her. The art of invisibility. Where the hell did you get the idea that being a ninja involves something like that? Naruto asked seriously, though did himself live by such a thing, it wasn't common among ninja in his world. TMNT. She replied, and Naruto blinked for a moment, and then stared at his apprentice flatly. TMNT? He asked, and Donnie rolled her eyes. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Duh, I mean, who hasn't heard of those guys? She asked him seriously, and Naruto pinched the bridge of his nose, while giving her an annoyed look. 1. I'm from an alternate form of reality, so the likelihood that I'd have heard of anything from around here is very little. 2. I don't watch TV or play video games. Naruto grumbled, reminded the girl while giving her a look, and Donnie merely shrugged her shoulders. Not my fault, sensei. Besides that, I think you might actually like it. The original comic version of the Turtles especially seeing, as they can get really violent, yeah, and considering his personality, I bet you'd really like Raph too. Donnie said, then mused aloud, and Naruto raised a brow towards the girl before sighing and rubbing his temples. Yeah, I'll have to look for those comic books real soon. Naruto said sarcastically, and Donnie huffed while glaring at the older teen. Now can we please get back to training? Naruto asked seriously, and Donnie nodded her head mutely, arms crossed over her chest. Alright, who do you want me to turn into then? She asked the blonde-haired teen flatly, and Naruto frowned in thought before smirking. Jinx. He offered, and Donnie shook her head. She's like my sister, I don't want to be in her shoes. Donnie stated, and Naruto rolled his eyes before having another thought. Starfire? He asked, and Donnie silently mulled that over before giving the blonde an annoyed look. I'm not that nice a perky. She replied, and Naruto had to give her that before snapping his fingers. Well then. He finally said, and Donnie raised a brow, then sighed as she relented to that form. Her prankster in crime was a decent start off if nothing else. Taking a deep breath, Donnie then concentrated and transformed into her normal ghost form, Naruto instantly noticing the new belt hanging on her hips loosely. New belt? Naruto asked, and Donnie blinked before looking to her waist and chuckled lightly. The belt was white like the last one and was worn loose on her hips, tilting down with 2 pouches on the left side strapped onto her left leg. The simple white pouch on her right leg still worn to match it. Yeah, me and Gizmo decided you were kind of right about my outfit making me looking like a Robin clone thing, so I got a different belt. Since I don't carry shuriken or kunai like you, me and him decided I wouldn't need so many pouches. Donnie explained, and Naruto raised a brow before nodding his head, then motioned for her to carry on. Closing her eyes, Donnie then spread her ecto energy across her body, while picturing Will before releasing it in one burst. The effect was her form instantly shifting, no smoke, though Naruto frowned upon seeing this. Will had white hair and green eyes like Donnie, and her clothes appeared to be a larger version of Donnie's as well. I think you need a little more work, though that is a good first try. Naruto offered and inwardly muttered to himself. Better than my first henge, that's for sure. He thought grumpily while Donnie looked at herself with a critical eye, then lingered on her chest for a moment. I think I may have made her a bit too pronounced. She stated, her own voice coming out instead of Dwayle's, and Naruto slapped his face before breathing out a grunt. Yeah, well, just change back. Naruto ordered, and Donnie blinked while looking at the blonde. How? She asked seriously, and Naruto rolled his eyes. Pull your energy back inside yourself. He ordered, and Donnie nodded her head slowly before doing as instructed. Like before, the change was instantaneous, though Donnie looked visibly more relaxed as herself. Alright, let's try that again, but this time, don't just focus on the body, also try to change your colors to match your form. Naruto urged, and the girl nodded her head once more before concentrating and released her energy once more. This time she was in the right clothes, though they were black and green instead of purple, a white flower. Dwayle's black gloves had green bands around them, and now she had green hair and glowing green eyes. Okay, you got the clothes right. Naruto mumbled while admitting she looked more like a Joker's daughter with green hair than even Dwayle did with red. Yeah, but I still didn't get it right. Donnie grumbled while smiling as she realized her voice was Dwayle's this time, though notably higher in pitch. Well, practice makes perfect, Donnie. Let's try it again, and remember, don't make your voice too high. Naruto ordered, and Donnie returned to normal with a sigh before trying again. This time Dwayle's clothes were green, and her hair was black with bright flame red eyes. Did I get it? Donnie asked before placing her hands over her mouth, her voice having come out raspy and evil, groaning lightly. Naruto slapped a hand over his face, and slowly shook his head with a frown. Shit, this could take a while. The blonde thief noted to himself, flashbacks of Konohamaru's attempts to master the Auric no Jutsu flashing before his eyes. Titan's Tower. Raven landed in the tower's op center and looked around silently. Beast Boy and Cyborg were on Gamma Station with Kiflash waiting his turn with a frown. Donna seemed to be cooking something today, and Starfire was nowhere in sight. Blinking when she didn't see their leader, Raven then turned and grimaced upon finding Nightwing waiting for her with his arms crossed. Good morning," she offered while raising one hand, and Night frowned while looking to a nearby clock. "More like good afternoon," he stated and then pinched the bridge of his nose. "I don't suppose an I'm sorry is going to mean much," Raven noted and got a look from Nightwing in response. "Didn't think so," she admitted mostly to herself while Nightwing crossed his arms and exhaled a breath. "Listen Ray, I know that you like Naruto, I also know he's willing to die to keep you safe. But you can't just stay out all night without telling someone," Night stated and Raven rolled her eyes with a frown. "I'm fine Nightwing. Nothing bad happened, so can we just skip the lecture?" Raven pleaded while rubbing one of her temples, and Night gave her a stern look. "No? Now listen, you want the freedom to see Naruto when you want to, I can understand and accept that. What I can't accept is you staying out at all hours without telling me," Night stated while pointing at the blue cloak sorceress, Raven crossing her arms as he did. "They died and made you my father?" Raven asked flatly, though would admit inwardly she'd enjoy it immensely if Trigon were dead and buried. "I'm not trying to be your father Raven, I just get concerned when you're out at all hours, and I have no idea where you are," Night stated and blinked for a moment when something registered. "Me and Batman had a talk like this once, man, that's a creepy thought," Night thought while suppressing a shudder as he realized he was actually starting to take after his mentor. "I respect your concern Nightwing, but as you should also know I'm fully capable of taking care of myself," Raven told the older boy flatly, and Nightwing pinched the bridge of his nose while considering his options. "Scare tactics wouldn't work with her, I can't argue with her like I can Cyborg or the others, she's a valued member of the team, so threatening her would go off badly. Guess it's time to compromise." Night inwardly mused before breathing out a sigh and giving Raven a look. "Raven, I give you a lot of slack around here, but I like to know my team know that my friends are all safe at night. If you're going to be out like this again, please at least have the decency to call and tell us." Night finally grumbled out while looking at her, and Raven blinked before slowly nodding her head as he walked over to a computer and started to look over something. "Dude, what were you and Nar doing all night, Ray?" Beast Boy suddenly asked while tilting his head back, and Raven fought the urge to send him into another dimension as a blush creaked over her face. "I've never been so glad for my hood," she thought to herself before taking a calming breath and glaring at the green teen. "Is that really any of your business? I never bother you about your girlfriend after all," Raven asked then reminded, and Beast Boy chuckled nervously before quickly looking back to his game and groaned as Cyborg beat him. "Don't take it like that Ray, Beast Boy was just worried about you know how he gets," Cyborg offered the girl without turning away from his videogame, Raven shaking her head as she turned only to find Starfire was staring at her. Starfire, why are you looking at me like that?" she asked only to yelp as Starfire grabbed her, and then quickly pulled her out into the hall. "Okay, what was that for?" Raven asked flatly, eyebrow twitching as Starfire looked around before pulling Raven down the hall by her wrist. "Aliens," Raven thought to herself flatly while they entered her room, and Starfire looked out the door to make certain that no one was nearby. Nodding her head, Starfire then turned and gave a pleading look to Raven. "Oh friend Raven, I have been very worried about my sister and wish to know if she was well with her comrades," Starfire admitted, and Raven sighed before floating in the air and tilted her head to one side. "She's doing as well as can be expected Starfire. I think she was sunbathing this morning," Raven offered, and Starfire slowly nodded her head before breathing a sigh of relief. "Now do you mind telling me the real reason you practically dragged me to my room?" Raven asked, and Starfire visibly blushed while looking around and started to fidget nervously. "Well, I believe Starfire said while wringing her hands through her hair, and Raven blew into her hair tiredly. "Just get on with it already," Raven grumbled, and Starfire quickly took hold of the younger girl's hands with a pleading expression across her face. "Friend Raven, would you possibly show me how to do the earthly courting?" Starfire said quickly, and Raven blinked while looking at her silently for a moment. "Huh?" she asked plainly, clearly confused, and Starfire bowed her head. "I am how you say, unable to grasp the concepts of earthly courtships. It is all very confusing to me. Many of the things we do on my planet would be inappropriate, and I do not wish to frighten off." Starfire started to explain and then covered her mouth while Raven sighed and rubbed her temples. "So basically, you want to learn about earthly courtships in some attempt to attract Nightwing?" Raven guessed with a bored look, and Starfire quietly nodded her head with a slight blush on her face. "Alright, but you have to promise me you won't bug me to go with you to the mall for a month," Raven stated, and Starfire looked about ready to protest before seeing the glare that the empathy was giving her. "Alright, I will agree to your terms, friend Raven," Starfire finally allowed while Raven sighed and leaned back tiredly. "Alright, first of all," Raven started while Starfire listened to her intently. "Tartarus HQ. Naruto after a couple hours found that Donnie was having only a slight more luck with her transformations. After what seemed like dozens of different combinations for her to try to get Will's form right, they had ended up with the closet one. The only thing off about her this time was that her eyes were still green, and no matter how hard she tried, they only came out green, or the occasional red. Sorry sensei. Donnie mumbled in Will's voice, and Naruto sighed while rubbing his face for a moment. Nah, it's okay Donnie. It probably just has to do with the fact your powers are ghostly that they can't fix the eyes. Naruto offered and Donnie sighed before calling her energy back into herself to return to normal, and breathed out a tired sigh. Do you think it'll be that hard for me to become anyone else? Donnie suddenly wondered, and Naruto frowned in thought for a moment. Not if you get used to it. Try to do Blackfire this time. Naruto stated and Donnie frowned before changing, like before only her eyes were off, both glowing a bright neon green like Donnie's did. Well, looks like I'm staring to get this power down pat. Donnie noted to herself while twirling in the air, making for a very convincing recreation of Blackfire all things considered, though would easily pass as Starfire if she changed into her. Now what? Donnie asked while returning to her original form, and Naruto frowned in thought for a few moments. How are you doing on perfecting those energy claws I was teaching you? Naruto asked and Donnie held up a hand, green energy forming over her nails before lengthening to claws. Good, looks like you've more or less figured that one out too, so what should we start on next? Naruto wondered mostly to himself while rubbing his chin with a thoughtful expression across his features. Say, what are you two doing? Dwayla asked while popping into the room, and Naruto grimaced while looking to the clown girl. Nothing that concerns you Dwayla, he said with a flat look and tone, only for Dwayla to flip over him to stand next to Donnie. Oh, then can I borrow Donnie for a while? I got this killer idea for a prank and... Dwayla started to say and Naruto frowned while Donnie grinned. Cool. What do you have in mind this time? Donnie asked and Naruto rubbed his temples while shaking his head. What sad is that remind me of me? The blonde inwardly admitted while Dwayla held out a box of itching powder and what looked like a simple tablet. First, we're going to dump itching powder in the JCPD's uniforms. Then I'm going to use some of my own quick-acting foam pellets in a fountain in town. Dwayla responded as Donnie looked at the older girl strangely at the foam prank, and Naruto shook his head slowly. You're still sore you missed April Fool's Day, aren't you? Naruto stated flatly, though smirking, and saw Dwayla start to growl. It isn't fair. Those stupid doctors kept me in Arkham on my favorite day of the year. Well, besides Christmas and Halloween. Dwayla grumbled then said to herself before narrowing her eyes. And the stupid author had to go and forget to post this chapter on April Fools as well. Damn you author. Will then thought while mentally glaring at the author for a moment before blinking in confusion. What was I talking about again? Dwayla asked and Donnie snickered while Naruto shook his head. You were talking about 2 pranks you wanted to pull. Donnie finally supplied and Dwayla blinked before grinning widely and placing an arm over her shoulders. Oh yeah, that. Anyways, like I was saying, and after we toss in the foam bomb we can deface public property or something else. Dwayla said and Naruto blinked before an idea came to mind in the form of defacing public property. Like, oh I don't know, a monument of Jump City like Titan's Tower. He thought to himself while Dwayla started to go on a long explanation to Donnie about what else they could do. Seeing this, Naruto cleared his throat to get their attention, both girls turning to him and blinking. Ladies, I believe that you're both thinking too small on this particular matter. Naruto told the girls before a wide grin spread over his face. In fact, why shouldn't we make this a day that Jump City and the Titans will remember for years to come? Naruto offered and Dwayla grinned while Donnie gave him a strange look. How? Donnie asked and Naruto grabbed his helmet and pulled it on, a grin forming under, as he gave the 2 girls a look. Why with Red X and Tartarus pranking not only the Titans but the rest of the city as well, of course. Naruto replied, and Dwayla started to rub her hands together with an evil look across her face. Yes. After so many years of Beast Boy and his lame jokes, I'm sure this town must be dying for something to really laugh about. Dwayla said mostly to herself while Naruto placed a hand to the side of his helmet. Hey Giz, get everyone together, we're going to be giving Jump City and the Titans a little trouble today. Naruto said into his communicator as Dwayla grinned widely, and Donnie looked at them both. Well, it beats more training I guess. Donnie thought to herself as Naruto deactivated the holo room and walked out with Dwayla. Hey. Wait for me guys. Donnie quickly called while flying after the 2 and out of the room. Titan's Tower. Nightwing frowned as he looked over more data on Red X. What little video footage he had on X was recorded by Cyborg during the limited times he'd seen him in action. Frowning, Night wished he had some on Naruto not for the first time. Pulling up the inner demon Naruto had changed into had been somewhat more helpful, but the fighting style between Naruto and his inner demon had been radically different. Naruto seemed more calm, reserved, and less brutal in battle than his inner demon. While the said inner demon tended to attack viciously and attack only with the intent to kill. One is part of the other. But they have such radically different styles than we have X. Knight thought to himself while looking over X style, and saw the almost subtle difference between him Naruto and the beast. Unlike Naruto, X didn't take fighting seriously, instead he attacked with only intent to mock an opponent. As a result, it seemed that X focused on pissing off his enemies by demeaning and insulting them in combat before taking them down utterly in order to add insult to injury. Naruto and his inner demons had different styles of combat at their base, but they each had something in common with one another. Naruto used his jutsu in combat, and so did he when he was his demon. Naruto has wind abilities, as does Red X, while the inner demon primarily used lightning, which X only used when he was mad. Knight noted while watching the beast's use of lightning and compared it to X's use of lightning, thus frowned. It's almost like the beast had a more refined control of lightning than X did, which doesn't make much sense if they were the same person. Though, X only used lightning when he was angry, maybe that has something to do with it. It might be a subconscious change that even he doesn't notice. Knight thought to himself before rubbing his temples and leaning back in his seat. Well, that would explain it, but Naruto never used lightning when he was mad, only wind and the one blast of lightning when he and the beast merged. Knight then reminded himself while looking to the screens and narrowed his eyes. Maybe I need to stop looking for links in their personality and fighting styles, it's getting me nowhere. Knight thought and brought up pictures of X, Naruto, and finally the ultimate form of the beast. Leaning forward and rubbing his chin, Knight narrowed his eyes as he studied the basic forms of each of them. Naruto, X, and even the beast seemed to have the same basic physical structure, athletic and built for speed rather than power, while also being deceivingly thin, though all three were much stronger than they appeared. However, Sasuke, Neji, and even Kakashi had a similar build, though Kakashi's was also more pronounced, thus it was probably very common among the shinobi of Naruto's world. Man, you okay? Cyborg suddenly asked and Nightwing blinked before turning around to see the titanium teen behind him. Sighing, Knight then rubbed his face and gave Cyborg a clearly tired look. Not really, I had a hunch about X, and I'm having trouble figuring out if I'm right or not. Nightwing admitted while looking back to his screen, and Cyborg looked at what the leader of the Titans had come up with and frowned. Man, chill. Whoever X is, we'll find him eventually. You need to stop obsessing and learn to live a little. Cyborg told the other teen, and Nightwing gave him a look while crossing his arms. Cyborg, X is a threat, a big threat. We can't take a chance he'll decide to stop playing with us and finish us all off. And with his abilities, I can guarantee he'd not only be able to, but also do it without much trouble. Knight stated flatly, and Cyborg frowned towards his friend while crossing his arms. X finish us off rather than continue to insult and defeat us single-handedly for the fun of it. Hate to say it, Knight, but that isn't his style, and you know it. And even if he was Naruto, that would give him one very good reason not to attack and kill us. Cyborg reminded with a flat tone, and Knight blinked before silently conceding that the metal teen had a very valid point. Leaning back in his seat, Knight then palmed his eyes while Kid Flash and Donna gave one another a look before sighing. Watching the two walk over to the boy, Cyborg then bit back a laugh as Donna picked the black-haired teen up. Hey. Donna, put me down. Knight shouted while Kid Flash shook his head with a smirk. Seriously, Rich, do we really have to go through this obsessive nature of yours again? Kid Flash asked and got a glare from the masked teen as Donna smirked. You need to relax, so we're going to do what your team obviously doesn't. Donna stated, and Cyborg and Beast Boy looked to one another with raised brows. What's that, dudes? Beast Boy asked, and both Kid Flash and Donna grinned. Not give him a choice. They chorused together while carrying out a struggling Nightwing. Come on, let's head out for pizza and get Sir Works too much away from work. Kid Flash offered with a grin, and Cyborg outright laughed before following the three out of the room with Beast Boy behind him. On their way down the halls of the tower, Cyborg stopped at Raven's room and knocked on the door. What? Raven asked while opening the door halfway, sighing as Starfire peered out from above the younger girl. Oh, hello friend Cyborg, what is it you wish to know? Starfire asked, and Cyborg blinked for a moment before shaking his head. Oh, we're all heading out for pizza, you girls wanna come? Cyborg asked, and Starfire bit her lip while Raven rolled her eyes. We'll catch up with you later. I'm explaining something to Starfire right now. Raven replied while Starfire chuckled nervously, and Cyborg was silent for a moment before rolling his one human eye. I don't know, and plainly I don't want to know what you're explaining to her. I'll just make sure to save y'all some pizza. Cyborg then said while walking down the hall to catch up with the others while Raven sighed and closed her door. Alright, now where were we? Raven wondered while Starfire hovered over her, literally, and looked down with a smile. You were explaining the reasoning behind the earthy customs behind human courtship. Starfire replied, and Raven rolled her eyes while moving out from under Starfire, and began to hover in the air. Right, but what were we discussing specifically? Raven asked, and Starfire frowned in thought for a few moments. I wish to know what the meaning behind the giving of unhealthy sugar candies. Starfire replied, and Raven considered how she was going to explain this to Starfire. Truthfully, Raven had very little experience with earthly courtship, as the alien girl put it. And technically, she wasn't from Earth, she was born on Azarath, a world held in a pocket dimension, though her mother was born on and thus from Earth, and neither was Naruto from Earth, rather he was from an alternate dimension entirely. However, both her and Naruto's race's cultures were similar enough to Earth's that they somehow fit in better than Starfire did. To tell the truth, Starfire, I just think it's something nice you do for the person you love. Raven replied with a shrug, making a note to find someone with more experience to help Starfire. Maybe Supergirl, she seems like the type to understand this. Plus she is in an alien like Starfire. That would make her a better teacher for this kind of thing than me. Raven mused to herself, then made a mental note to somehow get in contact with Supergirl to help Starfire in the future. Then what is the holding of hands significant for? Starfire asked, and Raven was silent for a moment or two, while contemplating how to explain that. Starfire, you don't really need to understand everything about earthly customs, especially in concerns with dating. Raven told the alien flatly while rubbing her temples, and Starfire frowned. But as I said, I do not wish to do anything that may be offensive. My people are warriors, friend Raven. We are not especially patient. When we want something or wish to court someone, we do not do all of the rituals that earthlings seem to do. We are expressive and feel. So let me get this straight. You honestly can't comprehend what earthly customs are for because you can't relate to them. Right? Raven asked, and Starfire nodded her head, thus making Raven frown for a moment. Speaking of which, I'm not really all that knowledgeable on your customs either, Starfire. Could you explain them for a moment? Raven asked, and Starfire blinking before nodding her head and taking a thoughtful look. Well, as I have said, my people are driven by emotion more than reason, mostly passion, thus we are a warrior race. However, I must admit that we do not wage war on one another. However, invaders such as the Gordanian horde we will wage war against. We believe that friendship is sacred, as friends are people you can trust with your life, and they can trust you to protect their own. It is not rare on my world that friends are more intimate than humans have shown me to be. And no, I do not mean we mate with our friends. I mean hugs and other signs of affection are very common, as you've probably already noticed. Starfire explained, and Raven couldn't help but nod her head, before wondering what that meant about Blackfire growling in her throat at a few thoughts before shaking her head. What about those Comsecret you told me about? Raven asked, and Starfire visibly winced while turning to look at the ceiling. I am saddened to say that Comsecret are often treated as if they were invalids. They are often very withdrawn due to the nature of their illness. My sister is not fond of hugging or being in physical contact with others, because we normal Tamaranians can hurt her, and others like her very easily on accident, as you should also know. Knowing now what my sister is, I realize why she wasn't first in line for the throne of Tamarin. Starfire explained to the violet-haired girl with a sad tone, and Raven blinked for a moment. Wait a minute. You're second in line, so he's first? Raven asked, and Starfire smiled brightly. My little brother, of course. In your language, I believe his name would be Darkfire. Starfire supplied, and Raven blinked before shaking her head, and made a note to find out how many more siblings Starfire had. Okay, and he was chosen because he was male, right? Raven asked, and Starfire scoffed while crossing her arms behind her head. No, unlike the human monarchies I have seen on the TV, our culture has no bias against females. The reason he was first in line is because Darkfire is a very bright boy. He is also a skilled warrior, and as such was chosen because he was better suited for it at the time. However, when the Gordanians attacked, he went into battle, and I have not seen him since, and I must admit I was not always as compassionate as I've become since living on Earth. Well, he was. Starfire admitted softly with a faraway look, and Raven frowned for a moment. I take it you and your brother aren't on such good terms. Raven mused, and Starfire looked at Raven before shaking her head. Oh, it is nothing like that. It is just that I was, how you say, very harsh on him during his early years of training. When it was decided he would be first in line for the throne, I took it upon myself to ensure he could handle his station with aid from our Canorca, Galfor. Starfire admitted quietly with a weak grin, and Raven sighed before placed a fist to her cheek. Alright, now can we get back to your culture? I think Cyborg expects us to be a domino pieces sometime today. Raven reminded, and Starfire chuckled nervously before taking a thoughtful expression. Yes, you are very right, and I apologize for my rambling friend Raven. We Tamaranians are, as some other races say, very sensual, but we are not truly attempting to be so. We are just not used to reining in our impulses like a human does. Our passionate nature also transfers to most aspects of life, and as I have said before, it is not uncommon to have a polygamous relationship. Also, unlike most humans, we are not commonly so reserved. Starfire admitted with a thoughtful look, and Raven raised a brow while looking at Starfire. Reserved? Raven asked plainly, and Starfire floated on her side with a slight nod of her head. Yes, humans would think that my attire was too revealing, correct? Starfire asked while floating around Raven lazily, and Raven frowned. Only cause you're flying around in a miniskirt. Raven replied, and Starfire nodded her head silently. Yes, I know this. But on my planet, less attire than even what I currently wear would be considered perfectly acceptable at my age. My sister wears full body armor only because she needs it in order to use her powers. Believe me when I say that she is not ashamed of her body besides her genetic deformation, and you may even remember she was perfectly comfortable wearing my clothing before. If I remember right, my brother used to wear something you humans would consider as little more than underwear, before he started to dress in warrior garb and armor to fight in the war against the Gordanians. Starfire explained casually, and Raven looked at the alien girl with wide eyes. Okay, I didn't know that. Raven admitted before giving the older girl a look. You're not planning on wearing less clothing anytime soon, are you? Raven asked flatly, and Starfire tilted her head and blinked for a moment. Maybe. I am not certain. I am comfortable with my current attire, though I will admit it can be somewhat restraining at times. Starfire said mostly to herself, and Raven rubbed her temples with a grimace. Way too much information. Raven thought to herself before shaking her head and sighing. Starfire, I honestly have no idea what to tell you to do. I'm from another dimension and so is Naruto. The only person in the tower who is human, has a relationship, and is from Earth is Beast Boy. Raven told the girl, and Starfire frowned in thought for a moment before scrunching her nose. Friend Raven, I realize I may appear naive and foolish, but that is only because many earthly customs are very confusing to me. However, I am well aware that friend Beast Boy's courtship skills are limited solely to his current girlfriend and Terra, one of which did not work out well, and the other he needed the assistance of friend Nightwing at first. Starfire stated flatly, and Raven blinked, having actually forgotten Starfire wasn't quite as foolish as she acted. And I'm better how? My only relationships were with a 1,000-year-old dragon that used me to escape a book, and a ninja from an alternate reality. Raven reminded flatly, and Starfire nodded her head. This is true, friend Raven. However, you have the point of view of an earthly female, not an earthly male, and thus I believe that you are better suited to aiding me. And before you suggest I go to friend Donna for aid, I feel that I must remind you that she is an Amazon, not a normal Earth girl, thus would probably not be the best person to seek advice from in my endeavors. Starfire explained, and Raven made another mental note to remind herself that Starfire was also very intelligent. True. Raven admitted begrudgingly, seeing Starfire had a very valid point on both subjects. But technically speaking, Starfire, I'm not an earthling myself. Raven felt the need to remind, and Starfire sighed before blowing into her bangs. Yes, I know this, friend Raven, but you are also the closest female with even a vague knowledge of earthly customs within the Titans. Starfire felt the need to remind, and Raven groaned in her throat while rubbing her temples. Why not ask someone outside of the Titans, like Blackfire, for help? Or even Jinx, Donnie, or Dwayla? Wait, scratched Dwayla, she's crazy. Raven started to ask, then said mostly to herself, and Starfire blinked before considering what Raven said. It would be easier for me to speak with the Jinx. She is human, and has most likely conducted courtship before. Yes, I can accept that. However, this would have to remain a secret from friend Nightwing. Yes. Starfire mused, then asked, and Raven silently nodded her head. Good. However, you fail to remember that we must be catching the Jinx and her comrades. They are still our enemies. Starfire reminded, and Raven took a calculative expression. Technically they're mercenaries. If we hire Jinx for something, she's not doing anything illegal, right? Raven said, and Starfire blinked before grinning widely. Oh? Yes, I do believe you are most correct, friend Raven. When may we do the hiring of the Jinx? Starfire asked in her usual perky tone, and Raven actually smiled slightly as it returned. I think I prefer perky, innocent Starfire, compared to the more intelligent and serious Starfire. Raven mused to herself silently. First, we should probably catch up with Nightwing and the others before Cyborg, Kid Flash, and Beast Boy eat all the pizza. Raven nodded, and Starfire nodded her head in agreement. This is true, though I must wonder how the Kid Flash can remain so thin given the amount of food he ingests. Starfire said aloud, and Raven gave her a look and poked her stomach. You have 8 stomachs, yet you're still thin. Raven reminded flatly, and Starfire frowned towards her before shrugging. This is true, however, 7 of those stomachs are small, and they simply store nutrients for long trips through space. I actually only need to eat once every couple of weeks to survive, though I eat more often in order to appear more normal to your earthly customs. Starfire explained calmly, and Raven blinked before shaking her head. Aliens. She mumbled while using her soul self to transport them to Piano Pizza. Tartarus HQ. Naruto stood within ops with a map replacing the TV screen. Why do I get the feeling Giz got the idea from Titan's Tower? Naruto wondered to himself while crossing his arms, the rest of Tartarus sitting before him. Alright, now then, today we're going to do something fun for once. Naruto stated, and Mammoth blinked before raising a brow. Fun how? He asked, and Naruto chuckled deviously. We're going to prank all of Jump City, and that includes the Titans. Naruto replied, and not only Mammoth, but also several other members of Tartarus started to grin. Ha! We've never tried pranking the whole city. This'll be so sweet. Gizmo shouted while Billy looked to one of his clones. Sounds like fun, huh Billy? He asked, and the clone rubbed his hands together. Tarnation Billy, it sounds like more than fun, sounds like we're going to have a blast. The clone noted while another clone moved over from behind them with an equally wide grin. Will we? We're going to humiliate us some Titans, boys. He called, and the 3 Billies high-fived one another, while Blackfire leaned over to Donnie and Dwayla. What's a prank? She asked, and Donnie looked at the older girl in shock, while Dwayla grinned as she looked at Blackfire. It's where you pull a joke on someone to humiliate them for amusement. Dwayla offered, and Blackfire raised a brow before smirking slightly. Enough. Now what's the mission, temp? Gizmo asked, and Naruto nodded his head while pointing to the police station of Jump City. First of all, we incapacitate the police. Dwayla, you and Donnie get to handle this with itching powder in their uniforms and helmets. Then you can swing by the fountain to use that foam pellet Dwayla came up with. Naruto ordered, and Dwayla and Donnie nodded their heads. Gizmo, you Mammoth and Kid head over to the power plant in the tech sector and give us a blackout to lure out the Titans. Seymour, you can head around town and drop some firecrackers, follow him private and help if any Titans head his way. Jinx, well, they're all doing that, you head downtown and do what you do best by causing a little mayhem. Naruto said, and then saw Billy and Blackfire looking to one another before looking to him. And us? They asked, and Naruto chuckled lightly. Well, they're all keeping the Titans distracted. I want you and Billy to hotwire a van. Then, kidnap Nightwing. Naruto replied, and Billy blinked. How is it a prank? Billy asked, and Naruto pointed to a point on the map. Does anyone know what this building here is? Naruto asked, and Jinx narrowed her eyes before snorting as a laugh nearly escaped her lips. Oh god, it's his fan club, she said with a snicker, and Gizmo outright laughed. We're going to dump him with his fan club, that's just priceless. Gizmo laughed out while Billy and his clones laughed with one another. What do we do before we get him to his fan club? Blackfire asked, and Naruto frowned in thought while Gizmo grinned and produced a camera. I know, why don't you kiss him and get the look on his face on camera? Then we can post it on the internet. Gizmo offered, and Blackfire took the camera before smirking slightly to herself. And hopefully if I do, little Starfire will finally ask that boy out and get it over with already. And the look on her face would be priceless as well. Blackfire couldn't help but think to herself while Dwayla grinned evilly. Hey, let's pants Nightwing and take his belt while we're at it. It'll be the ultimate humiliation. Dwayla suddenly offered, and Billy whooped in joy while one of his clones rubbed its hands together evilly. Not only that, but it gets the kid back for stealing my belt that one time. Naruto noted with a smirk, and the others nodded in agreement with the teen. What are you going to be doing then, sensei? Donnie asked, and Naruto frowned before creating two Kage Bunshin, one that looked like him without his suit, the other him with his suit. First, since I haven't been keeping as low a profile as I probably should have recently, I'm going to make sure the kid and the other Titans don't suspect me to be Red X by having one clone go around lobbing orange paint balloons at people. I will get the other clone with some of them when they're nearby to get them off my tail. Naruto explained while Jinx came down from her laughing. Okay, but what about you? Donnie asked, and Naruto crossed his arms behind his neck with a grin under his mask. That's a surprise, he replied, and Donnie pouted before yelping as Dwayla grabbed her up with a grin. Oh, who the hell cares? Let's get a move on already, she shouted, and got nods of agreement from the others, while Naruto motioned for his clones to move out, both saluting as they left, the ex-clone snickering to himself. Alright then team, Tartarus, move out. Naruto ordered, and the group all ran out of the room, Jinx staying behind as they left. Looking to the Pincat, Naruto raised a brow under his mask as she fixed a look onto him. Why are we suddenly acting like a bunch of kids? She asked plainly, and Naruto blinked before shaking his head. Because we are kids. Regardless of the things we've been through, we're still pretty young, Jinx. So, why don't we just enjoy ourselves for once? Besides that, the idea of humiliating the kid is very appealing to me. Naruto explained with a chuckle as he walked away, Jinx blinking for a moment before following after the youth with a small smile, then grinned as a few ideas to humiliate Raven started to come to mind. Thanks for listening. I do hope you enjoyed. If you want a next part of this video, like, subscribe, and comment down below, and turn on that bell notification, and also check out the other videos that I have created and enjoy. See you in the next video. Peace.